everybody, it's Bruno from NB, and we're at All Can't Be Serious, and I'm here with my wonderful friend, and probably the best in the biz as far as I'm concerned, registered psychologist at New Vista Psychology and Counseling Services. And I'm not just saying that. Arian Guedes, you're in the house. Thank you very much for coming back.
Oh, you're very kind. Thank you for having me, Bruno.
Arian, you know what? Off camera, we joke around quite a bit. You have an amazing personality. We joke around, but boy, oh boy, nobody takes what you do as seriously as you do. And why don't you kind of share, why did you pick this field before we get into our topic of mental health in times of crisis?
Absolutely. I love what I do. I got my first job. I was working in UNHCR, and I was fascinated by looking at people and the resiliency that they showed under intense circumstances, to say the least. I'm talking, these were asylum seekers fleeing from persecution, from political seeking asylum seeking, or religion, or you name it. And when I saw the difference between, at the time, people who were showing immense resiliency and the people who were just crumbling, I was like, what is the difference? What are some factors that play a role to see that one person under similar circumstances could make it where the other person breaks? And I was fascinated. So that drew me to the field of psychology. I'm a keen observer. I love noticing and helping people. So those were some of the first inception. And also I grew up in a community where mental health, there was a lot of stigma. People were just kind of like us versus them. In reality, that is not far from the truth. It's a spectrum. Mental health, we all have it at times. We all go through difficult times, to grief, loss, to loss, separation, divorce, or depression, or anxiety for that matter. So those things brought me to a field to investigate more. And as I learned more, and that is exactly the truth. Mental health is a spectrum. We all may go through it at various times. And we do want to learn coping skills and resiliency, how to build and cope with the situations.
You know, the reason why I brought that up is I knew your background and dealing with the UN and the topic that we're talking about today. And one of my friends, and she's been on this show and she's amazing, just like you are, Melissa Agnes, is a crisis management expert, and she's, you know, she runs the Crisis Ready Institute. It's an amazing, we're going to put the link down here because Melissa's amazing, just like you are. She helped our viewers understand the difference between crisis and an issue. And if you really want the definition without me messing it up, go to one of our previous video casts. And you were like one of the first people I met, and you were talking about the UN and your experience and saying, boy, oh boy, this is not a crisis you're living through. This is just an issue. You know, people that haven't had water in weeks or something, and that kind of stuff. And so what I wanted to really, have you describe in your professional way, when you are in a time of crisis, all these things that we've been going through, what does it do to your mental health?
Absolutely. We are living in a very unprecedented, unusual times. And people who are living alone, the rise of depression, grief, it's a collective grief. Like for the first time we are experiencing as a society something that is so unusual. And just similar to collective grief, we need to build collective resiliency. People who are living alone, this is excessively difficult time for them. And generally the factors that play a role is social. And in this particular distancing, so it has been quite challenging for people. The rate of anxiety, the rate of relationship issues, divorce, depression, and grief has been, to say the least, it has been like increased significantly. This is an adjustment time. Acknowledging that there's the first step, that this is something unique, something unusual. I've not dealt with it, not just I, but we as a community, we as a society and global village, we haven't dealt with something times like this. So what do? The first identify is acknowledging, seeing professional, talking about it. Again, talking about it is excessively important. Identifying your emotion. Grief is one of the most complex feelings that it's difficult to identify. It masquerades as a depression, as anxiety, as many different overwhelming feelings that you can't even identify it. So understanding that these are unprecedented and unusual times is the first step. Secondly, asking, is it okay to ask for help? There are times we all go through.
Arian, I want to stop you or pause you. I never stop you. If you're not going to go see or seek professional help in times of crisis, when are you going to go see like a psychologist or an expert? Like, isn't this the time when you're in a time of crisis and you're being alone? Like you were starting to touch on it, but I'm just like, what other time would you go see somebody like this?
Absolutely, absolutely. Coming and seeing a psychologist to kind of navigate through these difficult times, unusual times, and knowing that your therapist or psychologist are experiencing something similar, but they are trained. We are trained professionals with tools that can help. And keeping in mind that we heal as a community, and just generally coming and learning new coping skills, or even being able to verbalize your feelings, what you're going through is key. And hopefully, as we are going through unprecedented time, that we take away the stigma from mental health. That at this time, most people will probably experience a degree that their mental health vitals may be impacted. And hopefully we will remove the stigma that it is a spectrum. It is not us versus them. We all experience it at different time. And it's okay to ask for help when you're struggling.
You know what, Arian, I'm going to ask you a really crazy question. You're going to kind of go off the camera. Why did you, this is I think it's a tough question that, we're talking about, mental health in times of crisis for, let's call us all regular people, right? What do you think of some of our provincial, state leaders, country leaders and their mental health? What in the world are they going through?
Absolutely, absolutely. And as I say, to be human is to be impacted by situation as such. And acknowledging that, again, we need to come as a community, we need to talk about that, allocate funding so that everyone can have access to seeing a therapist, a psychologist, or a couples counselor or family therapist. So they could develop better coping skills, understand the pattern we are functioning, and hopefully we could take this seriously, that we remove the stigma, we put mental health at a priority.
Well, in one of your other episodes with me, we were talking about, the mental health vitals. And I think that people need to look, not just because it's our episode, we're being very serious about this because unprecedented times, like make sure you check your health vitals. I mean, if something's going sideways a little bit and you're alone or you feel alone, you got to check in with a psychologist. But the question I wanted to ask you, so make sure you guys go back, we'll link it down here. People kind of go, you know what, I'll medicate, and people start drinking and they start, doing some drugs or whatever the heck they do, and versus therapy. So what is the difference between medicating yourself and therapy?
Absolutely. And I say sometimes people do want to numb or sweep the issues under the rug, and that does not solve any issue. If anything, it escalates it, make it chronic. So either you're self-medicating through addiction, which leads to addiction. Now you develop multiple issues, or you could come and learn and develop better coping skills. And as I mentioned, yes, there is a difference between obviously medication. If you're talking about like prescription medication, there are times that if somebody has severe depressive symptoms, there's no harm in getting medication. However, research, again, I like to go back to research. According to research, if you are doing medication or versus therapy, there is a lot less chance of relapse, and also there's a lot less chance of you increasing medication. Again, I do not want to shame people who want to take medication. They're welcome to. There are times it's needed for, but hopefully medication is short-term, depending on the condition. If it's depression, anxiety, OCD, that short-term medication, and hopefully with combined with therapy, that you would develop better restructure new pathways in the brain and better coping skills, so that hopefully you don't have to continuously rely on one, that you have to keep increasing the dose.
So Arian, I guess we talked about, people on their own. I know we talked a lot about couples and all that kind of stuff, but number one issue, I guess, couples fight about and I guess get magnified in crisis situations.
Their top tens, believe it or not, number one issue is nothing. They fight over nothing.
Boredom.
Aside from finances and sex and in-laws and children, and those are the top 10, but the top one is nothing really, according to research. They fight over just because you're in a bad mood. That's why that emotional bank account, I think we talked in one of the episodes, is key, because you're in a bad mood. If you have a low blood sugar, when you're hungry, you're angry, you're irritable, and you just pick a fight, and you later on you pause and say, oh, that was like silly. But yeah.
So maybe like how the government can help us in that bank account is they can start printing emotional money and get the money supply going, the emotional side. Say, don't fight, here's another $400 trillion for the emotional bank account, you know? Maybe that's another, hey, we can call it like crypto love currency or something. But you know what, Arian Guedes, you are my favorite registered psychologist. You're over at New Vista Psychology that you founded. It's great area, great place to go. Now we're going to put you not on the spot, but we always have a little rapid fire, quick questions so people get to know you, right? And so I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, and I want you to kind of answer. Number one, favorite food?
I like all food, but let me see. I can't pick one. I think I love all kinds of food. Homemade, anything that's made at home.
Pizza. You got to go pizza. There you go.
Okay, right. It's fast.
Okay, favorite music?
I like actually classic music.
Favorite artist?
I don't have any particular favorite artist. I would say money. There are different various, but I love classic music, 80s or 90s.
Oh, classic. I thought you said classical. And I thought you were lining me up and say my favorite is Beethoven, who went to school with Bruno.
Beethoven, right? Yes. He's a good artist.
You were so polite because you're gonna line me up on that because I'm much older than you are. So
I can ask you a question now, Bruno.
We're getting there. Don't worry about it. Favorite sport?
Volleyball and tennis actually.
And who's your favorite tennis player?
Rafael Nadal.
Oh, how did I not know that, right? Good old Ralphie boy, right? So you've been a fan of his since he started, haven't you?
I haven't. Yeah, he's amazing.
Something that a lot of people don't know is you're, I'm not sure if you keep playing tennis, but you are a very accomplished tennis player. I was always scared to play.
I wouldn't say accomplished, but I do play.
No, I was always scared to play you and your brother. So, you guys would have to take it really easy and bring a lot of oxygen and a lot of anti-inflammatories if I played against you guys. You guys were really, really super good.
That's good. I can't say I'm good, but I play.
Yeah, there you go. So, favorite place you want to travel to that you've never been to?
Australia.
Oh, as long as you didn't say my mind. You don't want to travel there.
I came this close to go to Australia, but I didn't. So I wish I had gone.
I remember one of your favorite places and kind of like interesting was Bali.
Yeah, yes, actually Bali or Hawaii. Yeah, and Bali, that's when we were planning to go to Darwin, Australia, but didn't happen. But Hawaii definitely is my favorite place.
Yeah, what did you like about Bali?
I think it's the scenery, amazing food, the culture. They are very spiritual and there's a lot of meditation, which again, I like mental health. So yeah, I love the scenery, the people and the food.
And you're a beach person, so you like the water there, didn't you?
Yeah, and the ocean, absolutely.
So I'm kind of worried about this one because you're way smarter than I am. Hey, before we go on, I want to throw something out at you. Is this? You taught me many things, and one of the things you taught me a long time ago is once you came and talked to me and said, this, and I went into said, well, I think this is what you should do, and say, Bruno, sometimes people, when they trust you, they just want to talk. They don't want you to solve a problem for them. And I never forgot that, and I really appreciated that. I don't know if you remember that moment, but people are always trying to solve problems, aren't they?
They do, and the last thing we need is advice or fixing. We need connection. That's how we heal.
Connection. We need connection. Mm-hmm. So I'm delaying because I'm always worried about really hard questions. So you get a chance to ask me a question, and People
Excellent.
give thumbs down on me all the time. So
I know this is difficult because if you could hop on a plane and go someplace tomorrow, where would you go?
oh,
Why?
a place I've never been to.
You have never been to.
This is a place I've never been to that I want to go to is I would love to go to, just because you said Bali, the kind of that area. I don't know exactly which country, but I would just like to pick up and go down there, especially after what we've been going through, and just to see different. It wasn't just the scenery or anything. It's just the people just live differently, and you don't hear much about that. But I can tell you honestly, I'm without bias, other than going to see my parents and my family back home, the place I miss the most is San Diego. Like I really, really, really miss the West Coast and Southern California, and it's a little crazy everywhere these days. But those are the two places that I would, where I've never been to, kind of like the Bali area, just to see how it's going out there. And the other one, can I take something back? I'd love to go to not South Africa, but the Ivory Coast in Africa. I've always wondered on how that all played out. You know what I mean? So that's about it. Whew, that was an easy one. I thought you were going to ask me a psychology question.
Thank you for having me.
Arian, we're going to come back and we're going to be talking about a whole bunch of other things, but really in detail each episode, because I think that's what people really, really, really want from you. So again, Arian Guedes, thank you very much, registered psychologist at New Vista Psychology and Counseling Services. You are 10 out of 10, amazing, and thank you very much for everything.
You're too kind. Thank you so much for having me, Bruno.
Hey everybody, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember, if you want someone to be our next guest, simple. Click below in the description and we'll get in touch with them. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe and you'll never ever miss another episode.